Well, welcome to our council preview program. I'm Tom Loucks, Communications Director, City of Marshfield. My guest, City Administrator Steve Barg, and our Mayor, Lois Teestrake. Thanks for coming.
Good to be here, Tom.
All righty. Well, we have a council meeting on the 13th, 6 o'clock. It's the first one in the month of September. Fall is here. It feels like it at sometimes, but today you guys walked over here and it's going to be in the 80s.
Yeah, it's a nice summer day, a little bit of summer left before we dive into fall.
You bet. Well, that means budgets, as we spoke about in a previous program, but this one is about our council meeting. So let's get right into staff updates. We have some new employees coming. And Lois, who are they?
We have a new person who is in the accounts payable / payroll, a technician by the name of Elena Ratch. And she is a darling woman to work with. We know she's going to fit right in just because of her expertise and her great personality. And also, Brian Krieger is Parks Technician, Justin Casperson will talk a little bit more about him on Tuesday night, and we're excited to have him also. 2 more new employees, so we're filling the gaps, and we're really excited about that.
Well, it's nice that you get to see a few of those when you work at City Hall. You do work a few hours a week on there.
Yes, I do.
And open to the public as well.
Correct.
When people want to come in, they can make appointments with you, call you, and do that. That's wonderful. So, but you get to see the new staff come in and get acquainted with them.
Well, if I could for a moment, Tom, I'd like to thank Tom Butke, who's no longer on the council. He was the one who came up with that idea maybe 2 or 3 years ago to introduce new members of the staff to the council and to the community, so that you've got a face to put with the name, and before you come down, you meet the new building inspector, you meet the new police officer, you see them on camera, hear who they are, you have a sense of who it is you might be dealing with when you talk to the city, and that's a good connection.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for that, Lois. Appreciate it. Let's go right into consent agenda. That has to do with our committees, boards, and commissions that we go through, and those are read off a little bit, and was a piece in our finance meeting that I wanted to talk about, and then we'll go talk about the Board of Public Works. But first, the finance meeting, there was a piece on the agenda about special meeting for the Common Council.
Yeah, Tom, Ed Wagner, our council president who sits on the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee, laid out that night a plan for 3 special meetings of the council. And each of the 3 meetings would have a certain different focus, but they're all tied to the EMS funding issue. I think a lot of people have heard about this, that the EMS fund has some challenges, and we need to work through them. So each of the night would be a different piece of the puzzle, if you will. He suggested a number of dates as possibilities for scheduling the first meeting. We're trying to do that right now. I've been trying to connect with our council by email. Haven't heard from a whole lot of people yet. So that may come together on its own. If it doesn't come together in the next very short time here after we tape this broadcast, then we'll likely put this on the agenda, and we will see when we can get Lois and the body together for a meeting at a time that works for everybody. It is hard trying to schedule meetings sometimes off on the side, and it may be easier actually with everybody sitting in the room at the council meeting. But either way, there's going to be some special meetings coming up on that topic.
Alrighty. Well, we'll find out if it's going to be listed in the agenda on tomorrow, Friday. We're taping this on Thursday,
correct,
the 8th of September, I believe. And you'll release the agenda somewhere around noon tomorrow.
Correct.
All right, and people can look at that on our website, ci.marshfield.wi.us under agendas, minutes, and this is where our council agenda. Right now we're looking at a preview of it, so it's not finalized. Let's talk about the Board of Public Works. There was a piece in there on Tuesday night. I was going to say Monday, but that was Labor Day. Tuesday night on speed humps.
Yeah, and there are people who thought that was a misprint, I think, Lois, in the agenda.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, don't they have spell check at City Hall? What are they doing?
Yeah.
But no, and what they are, for people who aren't familiar with them, is they are softer, so to speak. I guess that's the word I would use.
Correct.
Than the typical speed bumps you see, which are pretty jolting. But this is an attempt to slow down traffic. It would be on 17th Street over by Wildwood Park and Zoo. And that's important because you have a lot of kids maybe coming out of the playground area and running out toward a ball that might have bounced away or whatever. The board did talk about this at length the other night. It was actually the second time they talked about it. They talked about it back in August as well. They did vote 3-2 not to proceed with it. I think some of the members have questions about whether or not this is a good approach. Is it going to be expected of us all over? If we do it in one place, do we have to do it for all the other citizens who want it on their streets? They probably talked a little bit about the cost. I think the other two members think it's a very good idea. So what happens now is, as you know, Tom, that under the consent agenda, somebody can pull that off and say, I want to talk about the board minutes because I'm concerned, why didn't we do that? Why didn't we get a positive vote on the speed humps? And then it might be rekindled for discussion. If nobody does that, if they just move to approve the entire consent agenda as presented, that will stand that we're not going to do them, at least for the time being.
All right, now, speed humps, are there any in the city that you know of? I don't know
I don't
of.
believe so. We have a few speed bumps, but we have no speed humps yet. Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And they're like 3 inches high? They're not the ones that are from front of a stop sign. That's different.
No,
Correct.
right.
Correct.
No, right.
They actually are for areas with 15 miles an hour
Okay.
to slow your vehicle down. And again, it's not a jolt.
Yep.
It's more like an over,
Soft.
very
Okay.
soft. And yeah, and even if you have a low car, it's
Yeah.
not going to, unless you drive over it, going
Super
26 miles an hour is what they actually had said at the meeting, that's the general speed in that area, which to me is a very scary thing with all the people and the kids and just the general traffic coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things the city engineer, I think, said is, the concern about we're going to have to put these all over the place when people request them. Like the mayor just said, and Lois is right, it's only in areas that are that 15-mile-an-hour type area, and that does not apply to most of the residential streets in our community. So you're very unlikely to see requests, and I don't think we would honor them for streets all over the city.
No.
No, but you're talking about near the zoo, Wildwood Park.
Correct,
One
correct.
of
A
our
lot
biggest areas.
Correct. A lot of people generate.
Yeah.
And the parking, we actually drove by there last night and just looked at all the cars that were parked on the side of the road. Well, it was a beautiful night, so why wouldn't you be in the park?
Right.
Yeah.
I know they have
Yeah.
2 parking lots, but yet again, sometimes people don't want to park on the street. At least we have options,
Oh.
rather than no parking on the street.
True.
Right.
And I think that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, we're not here to be lobbying for the
Nope.
speed humps. And the people who voted against it that night, had good reasons why they didn't feel we ought to be, spending the money for that. But I just wanted to note it again that someone could pull this off the agenda for discussion on Tuesday night.
All righty. Well, we'll see what happens. That's why we brought it up here. It was a piece that was talked about during our Board of Public Works on Tuesday. It was voted down, but we'll see where it goes if it does happen. Well, let's move into items that you pull out, Steve. Recommended action. This piece may not be on our agenda, but it's worth talking about right now because it will be on our agenda on ATVs and UTVs. You get that?
Yeah, yeah. If it's not on for the 13th, my understanding is it's likely to be on for the 27th. And when I say on, it'll be a first reading of an ordinance that the city attorney is right now trying to finish up in cooperation with the engineering staff. But this did well in the Board of Public Works. They liked the idea. There's been a push. A lot of people like these all-terrain vehicles and utility vehicles, and they'd like to be able to drive on and across city streets where it's appropriate. And I think a lot of communities are wrestling with this, and they're saying, well, that's okay. I get it to a point. Now, we don't want them going down our main drag, or we don't want them going on the highway through our town. So if you actually look at this, I think I maybe gave it to you. If I didn't, I can hand it to you. But there's a map showing some of the places that would be allowed. But it's only certain roads that we allow. We wouldn't allow it on Central Avenue. We wouldn't allow it on Veterans Parkway, on Peach, on parts of McMillan. And that's because those roads are not conducive to these types of vehicles being on those roads. But some of the other lesser traveled streets in other areas, for them to be on or to cross them, may be very appropriate. So we're going to see what happens. We'll see if it comes forward, and we'll see how the body feels about it.
I think it'd be unique sitting at a stoplight and you have a UTV sitting next to you. I have not had that happen, but I've heard people do in some communities, especially in the Northwoods.
Correct.
That you're up in Rhinelander or Woodruff or in that area. But that's a little different. That's really tourist. Not say we don't have tourism here, but that is a little bit different, probably why they have that.
Correct.
There are even people talking about this in different communities as an economic development tool, that this brings people into your town who otherwise wouldn't be there if we would allow it. And then they'll do shopping, they'll do dining or whatever. So we definitely want to be open to the possibility.
Correct.
Yeah, the amount of people I pass nowadays with those UTVs is amazing on trailers.
Oh.
They're taking them to trails.
Correct.
Yeah,
But
right.
some of them want to leave right from their residence around
Right,
here.
to be able to do that.
And
Right,
do
connect.
that.
Yep.
It is very popular, so I'm glad that it passed and see where this goes. And I would think Tom will present maybe a map that night. We'll see.
Yeah.
and see where that goes. And I know that was brought up by a couple individuals in the city, I think.
Yeah, it was, and that's another thing, and Lois talks about this too. I mean, bring us your ideas.
Correct.
Whether you come to the podium, whether you send an email, a phone call,
Yes.
let us know what you're thinking, what you
Absolutely,
want to see.
because without you, we wouldn't be here.
Good point.
Very
Good reminder.
Yes, because we're here for the citizens, our residents. I mean, if we had little residents, you and I wouldn't be here.
Correct.
So,
Well,
it's
and
very
I say this
important.
all the time. I don't think a lot of people realize how many of the things we talk about at meetings came from citizens.
That's
That
right.
they brought them to their member of the council or the mayor, they put it on the agenda. I mean, I wish they knew how often we're talking about ideas that came from them.
Well, it's my job, Steve, to get that out to the public in different ways, so I'll keep doing that best I can. The public lets me know how they want to receive information. We can't just expect the council meeting anymore to be our informational source.
Correct.
It needs to go beyond that. And with you, Lois, others, staff, myself, we're working hard to do that. So let's talk about this piece, preliminary discussion on the 2023 budget, something that's new.
Yeah, every year before the budget, and this will be new to Lois, this will be your first budget as mayor, but we usually about a month before the meetings with the council and the mayor, we kind of give a little bit of the lay of the land. I always call it because it's football season, right? I always call it kind of setting out the field and the yard markers and the goalposts, giving the council a sense of what they're going to be facing when we get into October, and what staff is facing right now in terms of putting together something for them to look at in October. It's getting more challenging every year. We talked about with the EMS situation that the Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement rates are pretty flat. That causes a big problem for running an ambulance service. Well, the state aids are relatively flat too, and yet expenses keep going up. We've got inflation fairly high right now. So we want to give the council and the mayor a sense of the challenges facing us as we try to get to the finish line in this budget next month. Take some early questions from them and involve them in terms of where they think that they might want to go when it gets down to crunch time. So it's preliminary, but it's important for us to have that initial dialogue a month out in advance.
So the budgets from the departments, are they on your desk right now?
They are going through them, and we've looked at. I'll be honest with you, right now the revenues are less than the expenses. That's not uncommon. It's what almost happens every year, although it seems to be more challenging some years, and this looks like it's going to be one of them. But we've got a great staff, got a good council, good mayor. We'll work through bridging that gap.
Especially when you say work through, you'll be working with department heads, the mayor, a lot even before council would get a full budget.
I will, and it's really hard, and I try to give a sense of this to the council, and I think part of what we do on Tuesday night will be giving them a feel for this, because I might be sitting with the police chief or the fire chief, and this will be happening in the next couple weeks, Tom, you know this, and I'll be saying, here's 5 things that you want to add. Maybe we can fit 1 or 2 of these in.
Right.
All 5 aren't happening. And those are hard conversations because these are not, we have good leaders. Mm-hmm. They're not bringing forward pie in the sky things, personal jets to fly to, to Florida for conferences. They have real needs and real things that they want to get and do to make their operations better for our citizens. But there's only so much you can fit in, and it's hard to say no, but I have to do it a lot before we get to that point.
Yeah, it's a hard part, but at least you can not have that all under your umbrella all the time. You can at least tell somebody
True.
and get a little bit of thought in there, kind of maybe relieve a little stress.
Well, yeah, and I always tell them when I have to do this, I can't fit this into the budget that I bring to the council, but it's good, keep it on the radar.
Correct.
Maybe in 2023 or 2024 maybe, whenever we'll be able to fund it, so don't take it as I don't think it's a worthwhile purchase or a worthwhile idea, but there's only so much you can fit into an annual budget given the challenges.
All right. Well, I look forward to that report, Steve, from you
Thank
on
you.
Tuesday. Mayor, you got some candidates that will be appointed, or one candidate, I should say, for a 5-year term on Marshfield Utilities. You put out information looking for some candidates. Where are we at on that?
Well, I'm excited to say we have 4 great candidates that are going for this position. Utilities Commission is again a 5-year, so you need to be committed for the 5 years. We will have them each come to the council meeting and give a 5-minute presentation, basically selling themselves why they are the best candidate for the position. So we're excited for that to happen again. I know when I first got to be mayor, I couldn't believe how many different pieces I had to fit in, and I was able to do most of them with ease. There were a couple that were a little on the edge, but you know what? With the help of the staff and just looking at the people, and I actually called everyone that had previously been in their position and asked them first if they wanted to do this job again. Not just saying you have to, because that's not who the city is. We don't ever tell you have to. We tell you that we want to look into this and make sure that you are the right fit and we are the right fit for you. So this Utilities Commission job, yeah, the 4 people, again, you each get 5 minutes. 5 minutes doesn't seem like a long time, but it is. You just, and when it comes to fruition, the right candidate will be picked, and we're excited.
Yeah, and I got to commend you, Lois. You did a great job on your appointments back in April. I can't imagine what it's like as a new mayor. I remember seeing you actually on TV on Channel 7 or 9, that night that you were elected, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm excited for you, and yet within 2 weeks, you're expected to be making appointments. Now, Amy Krogman from our office was a big help, and hopefully others were assisting you too. But those are important things to decide upon very early in your time as mayor.
Yes, well, it's funny that you say that, Steve. I was elected Tuesday night. 8:15 was about the time when they had announced it. 8:25, I got an email, or I should say a message from Amy. You need to come to our office Friday because we have to get this started. Wait a minute, what do you mean? Okay, well, you know what? And we did it. Again, with the help of everybody, that's how it works. We love it.
At least we don't call you that night, right?
Nope, yeah, right.
Hey, I know you're still celebrating, but okay, we've got an opening on the Economic Development Board.
Yep.
I want to add one more thing too. They won't make a decision that night, and this is a one board or committee that Lois as mayor does not actually appoint the person.
Correct.
The council will elect this person. They'll do it after 2 weeks of thought based upon what they see in these presentations, but on the 27th, they will pick someone for that position.
How do they do that, with a piece of
I
paper?
think it's a secret ballot, actually. I think they actually do the equivalent of a secret ballot. Now, ultimately, I think it can be revealed, who voted for who, but they just,
Right.
pieces of paper given to the city clerk.
That's what I thought. So she'll pass it around, they can write it on, pass it back
They'll
to the
have-
clerk, and the clerk can mention.
Yep, the
who-
clerk and I will stand there while she counts the ballots
Okay.
to make sure that
Correct.
everything is
You
up
got-
on.
you're-
Yeah.
No, it might be, if we're having 4, because normally we maybe only have 2, we might have a tie, we
I
might
was
have.
just going to say,
I
if
don't
we
know,
have
who
a
knows
tie,
Well,
you know what?
Yay,
Stay tuned.
Lois.
Actually, I would love everybody to come to that council meeting or watch that meeting to see what happens. Now, wouldn't that be, this is life-changing if there is a tie.
There you go.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll see where it goes. I don't know. So
We don't either.
We don't. Nope. But that's why we broadcast those and or come in person,
Correct.
like you say. But either way. All right. Let's move on to a few more things before we adjourn here on this show. TIF District 10, and this is a piece in closed session development agreement. Can you say anything on that?
Yeah, how many times have you and I talked about the mall project? In fact, if you think about the early days of you and I talking about the mall project, I couldn't hardly say anything.
Right.
I probably didn't say that it was anything more than a project in TIF District 10. But everybody knows now it's the mall project. The excitement is out there, new retail stores,
Yes.
an upgraded, more vibrant area out there. We still have to get the agreement between the city and the developer to the finish line. I think there's good support for it. But right now the attorneys are doing their little part with the last little minute. And they get into a lot of things about the way things are worded, some things minor that need to be all good as far as legalese and those kind of things. And they're working on those right now. But I suspect that we will go into closed session that night and come out and take a vote then in open session regarding the development agreement between the city and the developer. And I think people have heard that a lot of good things are happening toward getting that project off the ground.
Okay. And there's one other piece in here that we talked about before, insurance claim made by the city. Is there anything you can elaborate on that?
Yeah, and people maybe haven't heard much about this for a while, but we did have the issue with the municipal court clerk, the former municipal court clerk, and that's going through the court system. But just so people know what this is about, we've had this on the agenda a couple times before. We are submitting a claim to our insurance company to get reimbursed for the dollars we believe that we've lost, that we can demonstrate that we've lost as a part of what happened. We have great insurance coverage. There's no indication that we're going to lose anything ourselves. We appear to be covered for the amount that we're asking to be reimbursed for. So we feel good about it. But we need the council to sign off on this because there could be legal ramifications based upon the entire case that's going on. So we want council to know what we're submitting for, how it lays out, and that we're actually planning on giving this to our insurance carrier.
All right. Well, that's all the pieces that we decided that we could cover on our council preview program. Anything else that any of you two want to bring up during this
Tuesday the 13th, 6 o'clock. Come and see us.
Yeah, and again, continue to enjoy the city. Maple Fall Fest is
Yes,
coming
which
up.
is
That'll be
coming up a week from-
great annual
yep.
festival. We still have a lot of good weather left, hopefully. Get out and enjoy Marshfield.
Right.
Yeah, good point. That is a fun activity coming up, and take your families.
Absolutely.
One wonderful place to be, and visit our great town if you're from out of town, and see what we have to offer. Again, I'm Tom Loucks, Communications Director, City of Marshfield, for this council preview program. Like Lois said, September 13th, come or watch on TV if you can't make it, 6 p.m., and it is our first meeting of the month. Thanks for joining us.